Our last meeting of 2025, and we'll start the meeting as always with the Pledge of Allegiance. At the top of our agenda tonight, we have public comment. If there's any members of the public who would like to offer comments on something on the agenda, please come to the microphone. All right, seeing none, we will close public comment at 5:16. Did any members of the board receive any public correspondence since we were last together? No, I don't believe I did either. I didn't receive correspondence, but I did speak with a resident of town, Phil Nazaro, who's a former member of the council and the school board, who, was pleased by the discussions about us having discussions about the agenda for the pending joint meeting of the town council and the school board, and encouraged us to make it as meaty as possible. So that was the only correspondence I've received. Committee updates. I think we
negotiations, and as we speak, they're looking at voting on ratifying it. So we're really hopeful that we'll have everything wrapped up really soon for us to vote and to put on the ballot.
Thank you.
Dan and I met with the NTA to discuss the health insurance as well. We actually have a regroup of the Health and Benefits Committee tomorrow morning at 7:45 for a brief discussion, and look forward to speaking with the teachers after that.
Thank you. Any other committee meetings since Jeff?
Yes, so to report on policy, we met and we discussed a few different policies relating to technology, some of them touching on AI, but nothing from that meeting is really ready to bring in for school board review. Hopefully next time we'll have something there. On the budget committee, we met, had hear presentations from both the school and from the town on their budget proposals. The school, we're all pretty familiar with, so I won't put you down with that. The towns, the sum of it was that they are proposing fiscal year 2027 budget totaling $19,787,208, representing a 6.19% increase over the prior year for non-school functions such as solid waste and facilities. There's a lot more to that, as you can kind of get an idea from this packet. I believe that's available through the town's website right now. I will point out that numbers-wise, we did have a smaller increase, and I think that's worth pointing out. Not that it's a competition, but just because, it's something.
But we win.
We win.
Thank you.
I do have one comment that, if committee updates.
Please.
The elementary school had a fundraiser at the Riverworks last week, and I know a lot of families attended. I was not able to attend with my family, but then waiting for my one of my kiddos to pick her up from jump rope, I was listening to people talking about what a large event it was, how well attended, how much people enjoyed it. So two things: kudos that the elementary school had such a successful fundraiser, but then I was also thinking that events like that would probably be well aligned with our goal of community connection. So just wearing that hat versus me, as the parent or community member hat.
Great, thank you. Any board comments not related to committee updates? Kathy?
I've been attending the regular, excuse me, this cough has come back. It's actually the School Board Action Network, which is kind of an offshoot of the fair funding. And it's very, excuse me, sorry. It's very informative for me, at least, to hear what other school boards are dealing with. And this past week, they had, just on Wednesday, they gave an update of a group of school board members meeting with Commissioner Davis on December 12th, and they felt that that went very well. They got a foot in the door, and she doesn't really speak, she speaks to the School Board Association, but as like an ad hoc committee, she hasn't, she's still getting her feet wet, so she was happy to hear some of the things that school boards are grappling with at the local level. And I guess when they left, she said, you know, you are a very large, one of the largest groups in New Hampshire. So don't forget, I think maybe saying, don't forget to use your voice. So that's good. And then as they went down, the school board member, I'm not sure if it's the chair, we started talking about open enrollment and what they're doing, and basically make sure we talk to our attorneys, because there were two different things, and probably you know about this too. Either you have a warrant and you kind of protect yourself against some costs, or you don't have one, and then you're kind of hung out to dry. And one, I shouldn't say that, but I think at White Mountain, they said that their warrant is going to say that one person can go. No, yeah, one person can go, but they're not going to have zero receiving students, because they don't want to get into the competition factor. And they want, so there'll be, and from what it sounded like, that a lot of the other school boards are doing the same thing. And I don't know what your superintendents have been saying about that, but that's just something to keep in mind. And the other one was about health insurance. And there's the chair of the John Stark board, his name's Zach Lawson, I believe. And they are coming around that area, they're getting together, forming the idea of having a cooperative risk pool to eliminate the middleman. And they feel that they think it's worthy looking at, and they're feeling pretty good about it. So that, they said that in other states, this is kind of a model that has been adopted at some point. So it's something I'll keep track on and come back, and we can discuss it at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be an option we might consider next year as we reconvene our Health Benefits Committee to take a look at our healthcare options. Hopefully there'll be some viable possibilities.
Right, and in this one, a lot of the school districts, of course, are in the same bind that we are, and we're looking at this risk pool, and they think that maybe it's something that New Hampshire could conceively latch on to. But I like going to these meetings because I'm learning a lot too.
No, definitely.
What's that?
We like you both.
Definitely appreciate everything you bring back. It's curious, I guess, whether somebody's just reinventing school care, or is this, really curious to find out more.
Yeah, it would be. So his name's Zach Lawson, and he is an insurance man, so.
The concept of a cooperative risk pool would be that you would be a group of entities, school districts would band together to form their own risk pool.
Right.
And not necessarily have an external entity like school care or something else. So you'd have to manage it yourselves.
Right.
And I think there's an element of cost and risk in that as
Yeah.
well. Yep.
Okay.
So those are two things that I'm finding very interesting, and I'll keep up because, as I'm learning my ropes here, and discussion have maybe dedicated discussions to these things at some point.
Sounds good. Thank you. Other board comments?
I have a comment/agenda request. I don't know if you want me to wait till the end of the meeting or now's
No.
fine. As most of you probably know, there's a local church has been using our facilities, and it's great that we can and open our facilities up to local organizations when necessary. And it's been, I'm not sure how long, over a year, several years, but I thought it might be good for the board to discuss long-term use and maybe what our interpretations are about what groups should use it and shouldn't use it, and whether it becomes a de facto business place for the church as opposed to a temporary venue, which I think is what we generally use the school for. So if we could add that to an agenda, it'd be good. I'd
Yep.
appreciate it.
We'll get right to it next year. Thank you, Gary. Anything else before we move on? All right, thank you. Sawyer, what do you have for us this week?
So before I get into my usual spiel, we have a few representatives from the middle school student council. We have Ariana and Brianna, and then also Ms. Schwalje, the advisor, to talk about what's happening in the middle school.
Well, thank you. Please come to the microphone.
Good evening. Today we are here to talk about what's happening in middle school. My name is Brianna.
My name is Ariana. We're in 8th grade, and we are both co-vice presidents of the student council.
Our band concert took place last Tuesday on December 9th. One middle school band member reported, "Music is important to the community and my life. I feel lucky to have a band in middle school." This year, we also had one of the highest numbers of students who made the NHBDA Honors Band.
Our chorus concert was last Wednesday, December 10th, and our chorus members loved having chorus as a class this year. And winter sports for middle school are boys and girls basketball, and our girls team just had a game tonight, and they won 39-26, I think, and our boys have a game right now.
Then we also have some student council updates. First, we have our toy drive supporting the Newmarket PD Stuff a Cruiser event. We collected 70 toys in total as a middle school. Next, we have our Winter Wonderland Spirit Week with 7 days of winter themes. Lastly, we have our raffle basket fundraiser, which are 8 different theme baskets created by student council members, and we raised a total amount of $429.
Our proceeds goes to both staff and student events throughout the year, like for our staff appreciation events, ice cream social for the students, and spirit rally materials. We also have several other events where we raise funds for local causes like SPCA and the Newmarket Food Pantry, which are always successful. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the representatives from the middle school?
No questions, but that's an impressive amount of things you've accomplished
Right.
so far this year, so
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was
Thank you.
wonderful, thank you.
A little round of applause. Yeah.
All right, so for back to high school, starting with sports, girls basketball, their current record is 4-0. They had, their most recent game was on the 16th, where they won 57-24 against Messinic. And then their next game is tomorrow, the 19th, away at Wilton at 5 p.m. For boys basketball, they also have a current record of 4-0. Their last game was the 16th, where they won 55-40 against Messinic. And their next game is also the 19th at Wilton at 6:30. For indoor track, we had a meet this past Saturday at UNH. 3 people have hit qualifying standards for their event, which basically means that they can run at an extra meet at the end of the season. So sophomore Naomi Powell hit qualifying standards in the 55-meter dash. I hit qualifying standards in the 1,000-meter, and sophomore Ben Patrick hit the qualifying standard in the 1,500-meter. We also have an upcoming meet this Sunday, the 21st, at University of Southern Maine at 11 a.m. For hockey, their current record is 0-2. Their last game was last night, the 17th, against Bow, where they lost 7-0. And their next game is January 3rd against Londonderry at home, which their home is at Dover. For swim, their next meet is the 21st at 11:40 at UNH. So for some other things that have been happening around the school, in high school last week we had a career speaker fair, which I thought went really, really well, and I know a lot of other people thought it went well. So basically, every high schooler got to sign up for 3 different sections. There were a bunch of different like job categories. Like one of them was environmental science and engineering. There was another one where it was government and law. And we got to ask questions, hear about a bunch of different aspects of the jobs. And again, a bunch of people, including myself, thought it went really well, and it was just a really great opportunity. And I'd like to thank everyone that went. Thank you, Dan. Middle school, I think either this week or last week, also had a little bit of a mini career speaker day. I don't know how that went, but I'm sure it went great. This week is also High School Spirit Week. So Monday was Merry and Bright Monday, where you wore bright colors. Tuesday was Holiday Character Day, so people dressed up as the Grinch or Santa. Wednesday was Wear White, it was a whiteout. Today was Pajama Day, and then tomorrow is Festive Clothing Day. And then next Tuesday, we have school-wide Ugly Sweater Day. Earlier this week, the chorus and band went caroling at the Pines, and then this upcoming Monday, the leadership clubs, so Interact clubs, student council, NHS clubs like that, are also going to be caroling at the Pines at 3 p.m. Next Monday, we also have the opportunity to watch Count It Out, which is a movie about the real-world application of math, which I think would be really interesting to watch. This week, we also had the drama editions for Shrek the Musical. So that's the upcoming play that will be in the spring, I think. And then last but not least, we had senior Maya Beckles win the John E. Burke Sportsman Award, which is a really big honor. Only one person throughout the entire state wins that award, so good job to her.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
Just to make sure I understand right, the reward for being really good at running is you get to run more?
Yeah.
Crazy. Thanks, Sawyer.
Amaya won the John E. Burke Sportsman Award.
Yeah, you kind of can't understate that. That's picked by all of the officials in the state who officiate sporting events, and it's only one student, either for all of D4 or for the entire state.
No,
But
it's
either
actually
way, it's a
all-
huge
it's all
honor.
all classes. It's
Really?
It's everybody, so it's all
Very
four classes.
impressive.
Yeah.
That's incredibly impressive.
And what, she's a track?
She plays soccer, basketball, and track.
Soccer, basketball, and track. Good for her. Yeah,
Definitely.
should go on the sign out here.
All right, thank you, Sawyer. Todd, what's going on in the superintendent report this week?
First thing, I wanted to just piggyback off something Sawyer said, talking about the Career Day speakers. I was at a meeting with the high school staff on, I've lost track of days, I think it was Tuesday. And we actually, that was the topic of conversation about how well that had gone, and specifically how to take the information they'd collected from kids and teachers to try to channel that towards more career-connected learning opportunities down the road. So there was a number of pathways that people were really excited about, and they wanted to make sure they followed up with some experiences. So it was pretty cool, and actually the junior, senior high school staff is really starting to look at some of the changes we're going to talk about here later in the meeting around the 306s and looking at what do you do to create a really engaging, exciting learning environment. So that really was one of the highlights that we talked about. So thanks for bringing that up. One quick reminder, I just wanted to mention to people, remember Tuesday the 23rd is an early release day. That was not on the original calendar, but I think we decided about a month and a half ago. It's been on our website for quite some time, but just a reminder to people, next Tuesday is an early release day. So usually don't have to remind people that they get to go home early, but just it's important to keep reminding people of that. My report's relatively short. I did want to mention a couple of things. I did receive yesterday a technical advisory from the Department of Ed, and I bring it up because technical advisories are supposed to help make things clearer, and this one didn't do that. It was a technical advisory specifically on the requirement that's in the Parental Bill of Rights law that requires parents to give consent for audio and videotaping of children, which one element of that makes complete sense, but what it is silent on is things like basketball games, school board representatives talking on camera, that kind of thing. And so there's been a lot of debate around the region about like what is covered by this provision. Until the technical advisory came out, I operated on the idea that public events were a different category. Unfortunately, the technical advisory has sort of cast cloudiness on that. So New Hampshire School Board Association has promised they are fast-tracking policy to address that issue to help us out. So policy guys, we'll be talking about it in January, just so you know. For now, some school districts are taking fairly immediate steps to prevent something. So basically, like for example, like a basketball game, which we do streaming of, there's just no way, in my mind, to reasonably control that, because you could have kids in the stands watching the game. There's any number of variables there. But some schools are talking about requiring a permission slip for every individual event. And I really think that's an unmanageable thing. So I want people to know that I'm choosing to say, I'm going to wait till there's some guidance. My assumption is that when people are at public events, they understand that it's a public event and you could be on camera. That's just the reality. So just something to be aware of. And as I know more, I'll let you know more, but I would expect policy to be talking about it next month.
Isn't that, I mean, you're going to run into issues with federal law. You've got no expectation of privacy at a public event.
Yeah, but it gets very specific in the Parental Bill of Rights around a parent's right to authorize their child's, audio, visual, whatever. And it's not that our policy is not gray, but the technical advice from the Department of Ed put public events like, in fact, they used the example of drama events, and we regularly, our cable, they're on Channel 8, the improv events, things like that. And again, you assume a public event, people can walk in and see it anyway, so it's not the same thing. But right now, it's a little unclear, and I hope to get more clarity.
I mean, if that ends up in front of a federal appellate court, the state of New Hampshire is going to get laughed out the door.
Yeah, I would think, yeah. But I just wanted to throw that out to you because you might hear people talk about it. In fact, I had a lengthy conversation with Jamie Hayes earlier today about what does it mean for athletics. And I said, let's just breathe and relax for now. Let's wait until the School Board Association gives us some more specific guidance around policy, and then we'll take a look at it. So I wanted to let you know about that. Second thing I just want to mention to you, obviously you know Jason Carey and his team have been working on our cybersecurity plan. One of the provisions of our plan is to do school board training. And I'm not proposing a specific training event now, but I wanted to float the idea to you that at some point in the next month or so, we should be thinking about how to do a school board training on cybersecurity. There are two ways we could do it. One way would be to have a special meeting just to do the training. Another way would be to embed it in a school board meeting, but have it be in non-public so that we're not revealing security information in the training. But anyway, it's something that we need to do, and I just wanted to float the idea to you that expect that we're going to need to talk about that. So, Dan and I obviously will talk about how to manage that.
Yeah, we have, in addition to cybersecurity, we haven't done our security training that we normally do every few years with new board members.
Yep.
Since I don't know if any of you have been to that training. So,
so we certainly could roll it into one training, actually. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
We usually do that joint with the town, but I don't know if they want cybersecurity training. But.
And then my last item, my computer just went to sleep. Sorry, give me a second.
Dave Riley.
Oh, thank you. I can remember. Dave Riley approached me a couple of days ago. Siemens is the contractor that handles all of our controls, and they mentioned to us that we were one of the few schools that still had the maximum air intake that was from it was pandemic-related stuff. I mean, clearly the intention of it is to bring in as much fresh air as possible so that you're cleaning the air more aggressively. What that means in the wintertime is that you're bringing in cold air, which creates more of an energy issue, and it's a little more costly to heat. The recommendation from Siemens is to go back to the pre-pandemic settings. I don't need a a decision from the board on it. I just wanted to share that thought with you. I have Dave doing a little homework to see if it is in fact true that other schools are doing the same thing to make sure. But it does make sense from an energy savings perspective to revert back to.
We didn't do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say this half jokingly, half seriously, we should do whatever makes sense, but if we make a change, let's keep half an eye on the illness rates among staff and students, just to make sure they don't spike.
Right, right. Well, as it happens, under that theme, I was talking to Sean Pine today, and there is an increase in kids who are absent right now for various flu and viral-related things. So we are seeing a little bit of an uptick, but that's with maximum air handling, so it's not necessarily fixing the problem, but it is something to keep in mind.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much spreading there really even actually is via the air for flu, I guess, and cold stuff, depending on proximity to people and how long the contact lasts, but yeah.
Elementary school.
You're never going to get past that, yeah.
Windows open. Say that.
And that's all I have.
All right, on that
It's
happy
like
note.
one long season, embedded in winter.
So we covered our first discussion item during Sawyer's report. So Bryant, if you'd like to share with us the proposed draft articles for the March warrant.
Thank you. And please reference the draft warrant document that was shared. And note that the final version will have some additional information like the per pupil cost and the district achievement proficiency scores. This is to comply with new legislation. So Articles 1 and 2 are the standard choosing of the school district officers and the operating budget appropriations. Articles 3 and 4 will be on the Newmarket support staff, CBA. And then skipping ahead to Article 7, that is for changing the terms of the district officers to 2 years. So it's really Articles 5 and 6 that I want to focus on now, which are the appropriations to the trust funds, which will require some strategic thinking from the school board. For the past few years, we've targeted appropriating $200,000 to the School Improvement Capital Reserve Fund. This is in accordance with the school district's 20-year capital improvement plan. And as you know well at this point, to help pay for school care's health assessment, Newmarket's portion was $418,000. We'll be fully depleting the insurance and benefits expendable trust. Currently it has a balance of $132,000. So given the rapidly rising and unpredictable costs of health care, we do think it's important to replenish the insurance and benefits trust. And we do want to continue prioritizing funding the school improvement reserve to keep up with the capital improvement plan. So what needs to be discussed for the warrant articles is how much should be included in these appropriation requests for each of these trust funds, and do you want to raise the funds through taxation or from the year-end available fund balance? So to give you some context that can help inform these decisions, I'm going to share some numbers to try and give you a sense of where we expect to be financially at the end of the school year. I'll mostly highlight the big ticket items where we see some major deviations from the costs and revenues from this year's approved budget and the forecast, caveating that these are just best estimates at this point in the school year. I will give a more comprehensive financial report out in January for the close of quarter 2. But for now, I'll give you my best estimates. And just remember, some things are hard to predict and we don't have any control of. For example, our heating bills recently have been off the charts given how cold it's been, and it's not even winter yet. So. Okay, so starting with health insurance, the last minute pivot from New Hampshire Interlocal Trust to school care did add $152,000 in insurance costs that were not budgeted for. And on top of that, the school care assessment that I mentioned before, that we will partially be paying for through the Insurance Benefits Trust Fund. All that nets to a $438,000 budget deficit just for health insurance this year. There are a couple cases where revenues are not coming in as high as originally forecasted. So we know we're getting $42,000 less in adequacy aid. We're also earning less in interest income in our bank account, and this is also true of the trust funds. So the last couple months' returns have been 2% or less. So it's not right to assume that we will continue to earn the 3 to 4% returns that we have seen for the last year and a half. So we're forecasting $51,000 less in revenue than originally predicted. On the plus side of the ledger, we are paying some salaries from the SAS grant. So that's $163,000 year to date. And we got some good news recently where we are going to get a second tranche under that grant. So if you put all that together, we are expecting to save $252,000 in salaries and benefits through this federal funding. Also on the plus side, and this is a reminder that last year you approved to close the capital fund and use that remaining balance to be applied to debt payments. So that was $215,000, and those funds are still there to be spent. So everything I've said so far, we really don't have control over. So now I'll move into some variables that you do have some flexibility to maneuver. The first one is how much to apply to the retained fund balance at the end of the year. The second is how much of the year-end fund balance to target for return to the town to reduce the tax impact. And then third, how much to allocate to the trust funds and through what funding mechanism. So starting with the retained fund balance, last year you elected to allocate 3.75% of the net assessment, which was $856,000. So if at the end of this year you decide to put the minimum requirement, which would be 2.5% of this year's net assessment, that would be $602,000. So the difference between the two would be $255,000 that would be freed up essentially. The last several years, the district has returned roughly $500,000 back to the town from its unassigned fund balance to mitigate tax impact. So if we take those two assumptions, so the 2.5% retained fund balance plus $500,000 back to the town, and we also fund $200,000 to the school improvement fund, and let's say $150,000 to the insurance and benefits trust, all from the fund balance, that means we would need to have $617,000 in savings against the approved budget for the year. So I did take a look at year-to-date expenses and encumbrances to see how feasible this might actually be. And again, just looking at the big ticket items, we do have 4.5 vacancies currently, so that'll be about $363,000 in savings. We are, however, overspent by $200,000 for special education contracted services, but that is pretty much offset by another 3.8 vacancies that we weren't able to hire in terms of a speech and almost 3 paras for special ed specifically. And then last bit of good news is we were expecting about $300,000 in tuition savings because of fewer out-of-district placements and lower SST enrollment. So all this nets to about $663,000 in savings against the approved budget. So putting it all together, we're in the good by only $46,000 based on these assumptions and calculations. So that's really a pretty razor-thin margin, leaving very little wiggle room, and everything would need to play out favorably for this scenario to materialize. So hopefully that gives you some context for your decision-making and helps you understand what the various levers you have at your disposal. And just in terms of the tax rate, every 100,000 in additional funding would add 6 cents to the tax rate. Previously, there had been some ideas floated about the school technology fund and the special education fund, but given how tight the money appears to be, there is some prioritization that is required. Any questions on anything I just shared?
So to just kind of phrase the question here, so with all that knowledge that Bryant just shared with you, really what we need to do is go back to Article 5 and 6 and determine, and by the way, these are phrased the way they need to be legally, but you'll notice one is phrased as a raise and appropriate, which has a tax impact, and one is phrased as out of the fund balance. So that's just to give you a sample of what the language would be. You can choose to have them both be out of the year-end fund balance if that's what you choose. You can choose to have them both be raise and appropriate. You can also change those numbers to whatever way you want, but really it would be great to have some guidance, because remember, on January 5th is the public hearing, and typically I like to give the a brief summary of the likely warrant articles.
And the warrant articles will be voted on in March? Or at the...
They will be presented at the deliberative session on January 31, and then the vote will be on March 10th, yes.
And the Budget Committee votes yay, nay, is that January the 5th, or is that the
They have the
next
public
meeting?
hearing on the 5th, and then they have a follow-up meeting. You already have that scheduled? There's like a second meeting in January where they do the voting on those articles. It's probably the 12th, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know they normally go twice in January.
Yeah, and just from a statutory standpoint, January 22nd is the absolute last date that you can finalize your warrant. So, and that happens to correspond, and it's by 5 o'clock on January 22nd. So that's our second meeting of the month, but we really probably should be ready to finalize our warrant on the 8th of January.
The Budget Committee is not officially scheduled yet.
Okay, but I mean, the Budget Committee has to vote on the warrants that involve spending money before the 22nd so that you can get the Budget Committee results on the warrant articles, so.
Yep, and that shows as X to X is what we put in.
Okay.
So I do have a question for Bryant. The razor thin $40-something thousand margin, that's with these, the 150, 25, and 25?
The 150, the 200 going to the school improvement, $500,000 going back to the town, and contributing the minimum requirement for the retained fund balance, which is 2.5%. That would be $602,000.
Okay, so that's not through taxation. I thought there was also
Well, his calculations assume both warrant articles come out of the fund balance, correct?
Right.
Okay,
So
that's-
assuming we want it, but the language here is giving you a sample of either one. So
Okay.
if you,
Okay.
obviously, we're going to change the actual wording and numbers
Got it.
depending on what you tell us. But yeah, so the assumption is if you wanted to do both warrant articles out of the retained fund balance, it does leave us a very, very slim margin. And I'd love to tell you nothing's going to happen, but you guys know we've not had great luck with that assumption lately.
But that does not potentially include 9 or 10, the 25,000?
It does not include that.
Got it.
Can you explain that 500, the $500,000 that returns to the town a little bit for me?
Yeah,
For
so
me, probably nobody else.
it's It's sort of a target that we try to maintain to keep the tax rate
Okay,
as level as we can. So it's a mechanism to smooth out the tax rate, basically. And for the past couple of years, we've
but
been
it's not
right
hard
around
and
half
fast.
No, in fact, yeah, we can't, I mean, officially, we return what's
What we
not
can.
spent at the
Right.
end, no matter what. But when you're trying to manage your fund balance, we try to keep in mind that typically we've returned, about $500,000 to offset taxes. And if you have a year where let's say you only return, say, 300, that's 12 cents on the thousand of the tax rate that is an impact. And so if you're stable with that,
Yeah.
that's better for the taxpayers in general. That being said, there's nothing magical about
Okay.
returning $500,000. You could say, well, we only returned 400 this year. And that's certainly a legitimate choice.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, clarify that we don't, I mean, you said a legitimate choice, Todd, and there is no legitimate choice. Like you said, whatever's left, we return.
Right.
So, yeah, we can make assumptions that there's going to be this much left and then try to allocate into, trust fund or capital improvement fund, part of that, so that the remaining presumptive amount left would be 500,000, but yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I
no
think-
choice about it.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably bad phrasing.
Well, just for clarity.
No, yeah. I think the challenge is that we have to decide on the warrant language now,
Exactly,
not knowing
yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
And obviously, if we assume it's going to come out of the fund balance, if it's voted on and approved,
Yeah.
that's the priority with what's left in the fund balance. So even if there's only $351,000 left, $350,000 of it
goes-
needs to go to the trust funds, because that's what the voters told us. So
Yeah. At
that's the challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, we're guessing at that end number, and we're still more than 6 months away from that point. So it's really hard to be certain about it. But in general, we've been in that, it was like this year it was 482, I think, wasn't it, Brian?
Yeah.
482.
So if we go in the direction this proposed draft is gently steering us in, we do Article 5 from taxation, then our 40-some-odd $1,000 razor-thin margin becomes 240-some, which is more comfortable. The other option would be to flip it so that we're doing the school improvement out of fund balance and raising the insurance and benefits through taxation. So the 240 becomes about 190, still, reasonably comfortable. Go ahead.
While I agree completely based on the numbers and the safety net, I get concerned when it comes to the purpose, whereas I feel that voters maybe may have opinions about their tax money going to one versus the other. Just because health insurance is such a tricky topic right now.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I don't know. It doesn't make me worry, it just makes me like, so many things in that arena have been unexpected and people's reactions have been really, heated, so I would wonder.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess they could strike it down either way, and how much tax voters pay attention to the fine line, I don't know, hopefully a lot, but it's a fair point. I would actually be inclined to make Article 6, Article 5, and strike Article 5, 9, and 10. And then Article 6, 150, I would say we do it from year-end fund balance, but my concerns with the capital improvement plan, right now, we're in a pretty good spot. Todd and David estimated out for us a little while ago the 40-year, 20-year plan to 2043, and we're a little ahead of schedule. That luck probably won't hold, but, so I feel like we can kind of maybe let that ride a little bit. And I'm concerned with not giving some back to the tax base, or at least trying to minimize the tax impact, because everyone's suffering a lot. Not that in a year it's going to be better in the future, in all probability, but there's a lot of suffering. So if we
Yeah.
can try to tone it down a little bit, that's what I would be inclined to do.
So to clarify, you would not add anything to the capital improvement?
Correct.
Okay.
Don't tell Dave. But yeah.
But
I
if
do
we're in a
think
good
that-
spot, then these would be
Yeah.
the decisions we'd have to make.
Even if the amount that goes back to the taxpayers doesn't have a super or technical impact, I think that the point of doing it in good faith speaks to.
And I honestly don't know how many people actually realize it, that the actual tax rate isn't set until the monies are returned. It's not what's on the warrant. But yeah, it makes me feel like we're doing something.
Other thoughts? I'm personally feel uncomfortable cutting Article 5 to 0, because I'm absolutely willing to consider lesser numbers, but we have a plan. We all agreed that it was a good plan, and to the extent that the external factors are putting pressure on the plan, we can be accommodating, but we got in the position where we were in, where we had to sink $39 million into these buildings for a reason.
Sure.
It was due to long-term chronic under-maintenance and underfunding. And
What would you propose?
I mean, 100,000, and I do believe that we can live without Articles 8 and 9.
Would you be opposed to the flip of the order?
No, I wouldn't.
What about the funding vehicle?
I would probably say the 100,000 comes out of year-end balance, or sorry, the other way around. I would,
that'd work.
you know, the 150 out of year-end balance, the 100, which would be 6 cents on the tax rate. We just put it straight up, and at that point, it's incumbent on us to do the sales job to say, hey, would you like to spend, you know, 100, would you like to sock away 100,000 this year, or do you want the district coming back in 15 years looking for $20 million because the buildings are in a bad way again, like they were 8-9 years ago?
Yeah, I'd be comfortable.
And because we had that capital reserve, we were able to do the roofs without impacting a whole lot of, so you never know when
Correct.
those issues are going to come up.
Yeah, particularly anything in that direction, every time you open up a wall, there's a risk that you're going to find something that terrifies you. It's just the nature of a building built in 1925.
As time looks around.
Look, get to see it. This is the
Not
oldest.
right this minute.
This is the oldest roofing.
You didn't have to tell me
I'd
that.
rather invest in the capital reserve than to put into water buckets.
Motion to adjourn and move to the library.
The snow load is not that significant. We're safe.
You're good, Brendan. Don't worry. We're okay, thanks. All right, so we don't, I think, specifically need a motion at this point, but is that, you know, within the board's comfort level, just to itemize it out? We don't go forward with 9 or 10. We reduce Article 5 to 100,000 and make that one from, basically reduce Article 5 to 100,000 and move that to Article 6 from year-in balance. We take Article 6 and make it Article 5. Sorry, I just
You
said
almost
that.
got that.
I
You were
said
so
that
close.
completely wrong.
You were
You're
so
right, I
close.
was so close.
So Article 5 would move to Article 6, we reduce to 100,000, and we leave the funding from taxation. Article 6, now Article 5 would stay at 150,000 and be funded by year-end fund balance.
And do we need to, do the ones that get funded from taxation have to come first? Is there,
No, it's just the way it works is if you have multiple year-end fund balance articles, the order they're in determines which one gets funding. So if they were both that way and we only had, say, 300,000, the first one would get fully funded, the second one would only be partially funded. So because you're doing one out of taxation, the order is not really significant.
Okay, good.
Unless you want to confuse yourself further and move them around. That's your
I'm always here to confuse myself further.
I mean, this still
You
puts
guys
us at a razor thin margin, but, or a little less than razor, 147,000, but
Yeah,
estimated, but, yeah.
I mean, it's got to leave us feeling more
Is
comfortable.
that better, Brian?
Yep.
140? Anything's better? I do have a question, and related to 10, and I do agree with cutting that for this year. But just thinking about special education costs and out-of-district placements, has Newmarket School District ever considered or looked into a partner program to have in a building rather than out-of-district placement?
I guess it depends on what you call looked at. Certainly, we've had internal conversations about that. I know Erica has brought that up. It's like that might be an avenue at some point. But we haven't, I wouldn't say we studied it to the point where we would say it would be feasible for us.
Okay.
All right, Brian, do you have what you need to?
Yep, so we got it.
All right,
What Dan said, but then backwards,
Yeah.
switched around.
I don't want,
We'll get it. We got what we need.
I don't want anyone leaving without what they need. So,
So do we have to take a vote on 9 and 10, or do we just,
Even though the warrant says approved, you don't have to approve anything tonight.
Okay.
What we needed is guidance, so we can
Okay.
draft it. At some point, you will have to approve it, but
All
now
right.
it's just a draft.
okay.
still one?
All right, next on the agenda, Todd will give us some background on what the policy committee is looking at as far as 306s, and maybe even start by telling the public what a 306 is.
Well,
Before
actually,
we do, can I back up?
Sure.
So we don't need to vote on it tonight, presuming that the budget committee, because generally we'd like to be able to say to the budget committee that the board approved it 5-0, correct? Or whatever the approval, or are you not think that's beneficial or are concerned about that?
I mean,
I'm assuming the budget committee will meet after
Well,
the 8th,
I
so
guess
in
that-
theory could do it on
right.
the 8th.
usually at the hearing, that is not information that is shared.
Okay, fine,
Okay.
that's fine. then.
I typically, in fact, I went back and watched last year's meeting, just to remind
How
myself
were you?
of what was said. I was good. I did a
You were
good
very
job.
good.
Sure.
That was the first one I went
I
to.
looked good.
I gave you, it was very, very
But
impressive.
I shared a slide that listed the articles that were likely to be out, but the hearing is primarily about the operating budget. Okay?
All right, thanks.
Yeah, also, I mean, not for nothing, if the budget committee, which is within their power, were to decide to amend the dollar amount in the operating budget, we would need to revote anyway.
So they could do that to our budget?
That's right.
Okay.
306s?
Yeah.
So actually, I decided to invite my friend Patty, because Patty's the one that's actually been doing all the work on this stuff, so I asked her to come and just give you a quick overview before we talk about the two
Thinking that's
policies.
IKEA.
So,
Okay.
go for it, Patty.
So good evening, everyone. So I thought I would first just quickly define ED 306 are the minimum standards, which means the basic requirements that a school must meet to be allowed to operate fully and properly. So with this new passing of the law last spring, June maybe, ED 306 now has created a new policy named IK. And then also it led to revising an existing policy named IKF. So for IK, it formally defines the minimum standards for schools. And then IKF, as a result of that, we had to update what those minimum standards are. So what you see before you, well, actually, I had Ellen share with you, I have a couple of them here, this document here, if you have. So myself and my colleagues in the Southeast region, We wanted to just really organize which policies were priority, needed to be addressed right away, IK, for example, brand new, and which policies maybe would need to be revised. And then we also realized there were 4 policies that we can withdraw because they're spelled out in the new IK language. So that's what this sheet is here. So we are still working on a couple more policies that we will bring to you. But more importantly, the most, I guess, timely, the first one being IK. And that is brand new. So you'll see the New Hampshire School Board Associations, it's kind of like this, has yellow and green in it. That's their language. We then take it and we take this policy from the state and then we attach it to Newmarket and how it aligns to Newmarket School District. So there's very new language in here. The title itself, earning high school credit and achievement of competencies. Before we looked at earning credit as what we called seat time. You know, a student was in a course for a semester, they got a half a credit. They were in a course for a full year, they earned 1 credit. Now what's happening with the additional half credit courses now in these ED 306s, a student can actually, I'll use financial literacy and economics as an example. Those 2 courses, when you look at the competencies of them, they're rolled into 1 semester, but students will earn 1 credit. They're going to earn a half a credit for economics and a half a credit for literacy. So you can imagine programs of studies needed to change as well. So, but first I just want to draw your attention to IK really explains how students can earn credit, not so much seat time. So a student can present their evidence of mastery of competencies to a principal, and the principal would either reward that credit or deny that credit. A student could appeal, and then that appeal would go to the superintendent. So that's what this IK policy lays out. This new ED 306 minimum standards go into effect for the students who are freshmen in the next year, in the 26-27 school year. So this new policy, it does not affect our rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It's only our rising freshmen. So as a result, Andy Corman and his team, we're actually going to have 2 programs of study. One program of studies will be for the students who are next year's sophomore, juniors, and seniors, which really isn't going to change that much, maybe some electives, but in terms of requirements via the state, it will not change. But then there will be another program of studies book for our incoming freshmen of 2026. And that will be aligned to all of these new requirements as outlined in ED 306. Just so that you know that. So the first one is IK. It lays out credit awarded, learning opportunities. So it mentions from your traditional